Before I introduce Jim, I want to share a bit of good news for me and you. Since it's Consecration Sunday, it's the last time I have to stand up here and talk, and it's the last time you have to sit and listen to me. Jim Wilkinson and I met 20 years ago at the White House in Washington, D.C. Jim was Deputy National Security Advisor to Dr. Condoleezza Rice and regarded as a highly valued member of the George W. Bush administration. There were very few occasions during the 8 years Bush was in office when Jim was not sought out for his strategic counsel. He's gone on to accomplish a number of things. A few of them are co-leading an international company through the largest stock offering in history, advising Fortune 100 CEOs, launching his own public company on Wall Street, and he's currently negotiating a stadium contract for an NFL football team. But for me, the most impressive thing about Jim is the time that he devotes to his wife and 2 children. It's the time that he strategically and quietly removed hundreds of people out of a desperate situation. He's served in the military. He's mentored a teen towards a brighter future and taken a family into his own home to give them hope. And through all this, he maintains the discipline to get up every morning at 4 o'clock to study and read the Bible. It's my pleasure to introduce you to a dear friend of Jeannie's and mine, Mr. Jim Wilkinson.
You know, Patrick, this is harder than it looks up here. How do you do this? Good morning. Good morning. How about we have some fun? I think we need some fun. It's been a long couple of years. I'm amazed to be here. I was telling the earlier service that I grew up in Tenaha, Texas, which if you have any culture in class about you, you'll know that's in East Texas, a little town of 1,000 people. And my grandmother was horrified that I grew up in a small town, so she traveled, took me around, she brought me to San Antonio, and it was see the Alamo, but I remember driving a little north of here and seeing Ralph the swimming pig, if you remember Ralph the swimming pig at San Marcos. A lot of you don't know, you don't have culture if you don't know what that's about, but my kids don't believe me, they think I'm lying, but it's an honor to be here. It's surprising. I graduated in the top 90% of my class. I wasn't that good of a student. I wound up in the White House after 9/11. My grandfather called me, and I said, "Grandpa, I'm on TV. I'm doing interviews. I'm famous now." And my grandfather says, "You know, you're an idiot." He said, "I don't know what scares me more, terrorism or the fact that you're working on it for us." But, you know, we don't know how this all turns out. Y'all have heard of my good friend Condoleezza Rice. She's godmother to my daughter, and many people... I told the story to the earlier service. Many people believe she comes from this great, 100-year tradition of faith. You know, her family were all pastors. It's actually not true. It's the littlest difference that can happen. Her grandfather, or great-grandfather, no one knows why, was in a town called Utah, Alabama. That's spelled E-U-T-A-W, Alabama. Black man, and nobody knew why, but he wanted to be a ruthless business leader. So went to town, and they said, "You can't go to business school here because you're black. You have to go to Stillman College down the road where black people go." So he showed up there, registered for his classes. "I'm going to be a tough killer business leader." They said, "Great, here's how much it costs to go here." He didn't have any cash. They said, "Well, what do you got?" He said, "Well, I have cotton." So he paid for his first year of business school tuition in cotton. Amazing, right? Goes through his first year, comes back. "Man, I'm going to be a tough killer, ruthless business leader." Registers for his classes. They say, "Where's your cash?" He said, "I have no cash." "Well, where's your cotton?" "I have no cotton." "Well, you have to leave." And he said, well, those boys over there, why do they get to stay?" And the dean said, "Well, those boys have what's called a scholarship because they're studying to be Presbyterian ministers. If you want to be a minister, you could stay." He goes, "I've been thinking a lot about Jesus Christ lately." We don't know how this all turns out, do we? We don't know. But there's four things we know, 5 actually. Number one is how amazing the MacArthur family are. They're awesome. They're amazing. There are four things we know for certain. One, this is a church for all seasons of life. These windows, do you know that after World War II, these windows were put together? I learned this morning, and they insisted that every one of these windows include Jesus' life. They didn't want any pedestrian things and things that were abstract. They wanted every single window to show about Jesus' life. I don't know if you knew that. I didn't know it till I got here. 1907, been a lot of seasons since 1907. Second thing we know for certain is this is Consecration Sunday. We do know that. And the word consecration, I went to public school, so I need to read sometimes. The definition of consecration is the action of making or declaring something and to dedicate to a higher purpose. We know that for certain. Third thing we know for certain, it's tough out there, but whatever happens next, there were people that came before us, there'll be people who are after us. But whatever happens next must be built on a foundation of God in Christ. It must. Anything else isn't going to work. It's not going to work. The last thing we know for certain of the four things is every one of you is a leader. We have young people here. How about those kids? Isn't that amazing to see? We have people here who've been around a little longer. Everyone is a leader. This has been a time of reflection the last 2 or 3 years. Every single person I know has rethought everything about themselves. Many have questioned their faith. We've seen some of the very worst in people. I don't know about you. About the third time I saw somebody get in a fist fight at Starbucks over they got a venti, not grande, I was like, wow, something's changed. We've lost a lot of basic decency, just basic decency and kindness. We've seen some bad times. We've also seen people do things that they're not proud of. I'm one of them. I'll tell you a very personal story. I'm not proud of this. My minister, who changed my life, his wife passed away of Huntington's chorea, which is a terrible disease. And so we took him to Israel. I've been to Israel probably 20, 30 times in my life. We took him to Israel to do Bible sites. And we went up to Mount Carmel, and we wondered if he could preach again. We actually wondered if he would be able to do this again, to stand before a congregation and preach again, given that his wife had died. And on Mount Carmel, I saw him come alive again. He taped a video to our church, and he came alive. So then we went to Jerusalem. Raise your hand if you've been to Jerusalem. It's pretty incredible. We get to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and this is something I'm not proud of about myself. I'm confessing to you today. It's about a 3-hour line, and I don't like waiting in lines. I have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. I used to fight terrorists. Terrorists are easy compared to the 9-year-old and the 7-year-old, and I've lost my patience. So I decided I wasn't going to wait in a 3-hour line to get into the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So I took a wad of cash and went up to the front of the line, and there was the religious leader there, and I said, "Sir, could I give you this cash and we could cut in line?" And he says, "Sir, I can't take that here." And my pastor goes, "I can't believe, but Jim Wilkinson just tried to bribe a priest in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Israel." So I've got things I'm not proud of, all right? I put on my COVID-20. I lost some of my COVID-20. I've come to some grand conclusions during COVID. Raise your hand if you're a grandparent here, all right? All right. Do you know why? I discovered this, and it really changed my life. Do you know why grandparents and grandkids get along so well? Why do grandparents and grandkids get along so well? I realized they have a common enemy. They have a common enemy. That's why they get along so well. I learned about bookstores. I have kids. A lot of you are parents. You go to a bookstore, there's a shelf as long as this church on what to do when you're pregnant. And there's a shelf of books as long as this church on what to do and how to get them into Harvard or Yale. There ain't no books for in between. There's only one, the Bible. There's no section for what to do in between. It doesn't exist. I learned how to survive my wife with bleach, washing every single apple and banana we had. It was, I can't believe it. That was worse than COVID, trying to survive that. There's some funny things. We've learned some bad things. We have become addicted to mobile phones and social media. We have become addicted. And I hope I don't offend anyone here when I say this. I believe social media is one of the great enemies of our time, and it's only gotten worse during COVID. I doubt when we all die, we're going to be laying on our deathbed going, "My Lord, I wish I had, Lord, please, why didn't I Instagram more? Lord, why didn't, thank you, Lord, for letting me see where my neighbors had lunch and what they had to eat." Right? I don't think that's what we're going to be thinking. Do you know that before the pandemic, the average American spent 3.5 hours on their phone. The average American. Today, that number has gone up 36% during the pandemic. It's led to loneliness, anxiety. Any of you have daughters here, you know how tough it is. I have a 9-year-old daughter. The influences coming at them are so tough. It's led to suicides. It's led to a lot of areas. The thing I hate about it most is it's led us to a world where you can now 100% surround yourself only with people that agree with you. That's not good. There was another fellow that didn't do that, and that's called Jesus Christ. All right? He didn't surround himself only with people that agreed with him. So is it any wonder that faith today is under attack? It's under attack. Here's some numbers. People age 18 to 36, as of a week ago, 43% of people 18 to 36 do not believe in God. 43%. In the 1970s, over 80% had confidence in religion and religious institutions. Today, the number's 4 in 10. Just believing in God. In 1991, 86%. In 2021, after the pandemic, 46%. Belief that the Bible is actually a real document that actually has something to say of value. In 1991, 70%. Today, 41%. So the question becomes, what do we do? I don't know about you. I want to do something. Raise your hand if you've been angry during COVID. I've gotten angry. I've been mad. I've been happy. It's like a Broadway play. We took our kids to camp, and my wife and I, in 10 years, had never spent time alone. And I said, "Hi, I'm Jim." But we want to do something about it. That's why you're here. What do we do? I got a few thoughts. After 9/11, President Bush said that good and evil have always been at war, and we know that God is not neutral. All right? We have to all get over our big bad selves. And I start with myself. All right? Look at these windows. Those people came back from World War II. All right? They had it pretty tough. All right? The people that built this church in 1907, that was before World War I. Those people had it pretty tough. We also know, and we've learned this, that if we don't take action, us in this room, no one will. All right? I heard the other day someone said, well, someone should do something about that. We're the someone. We're the someone. I consulted before I came here. This is important, and I wanted to be intellectual, so I consulted that great religious scholar and theologian, Hank Williams Jr., when he said, we're all just passing through. None of us live forever. This is a church for all seasons. We're all in different seasons of our life, but each of us is asking what to do. So I came up with 2 scriptures that really changed the way I viewed all this. I said to myself, self, what are we going to do here? Number 1 was 2 Timothy. I have fought the good fight. I finished the race. I kept the faith. All right? At some point, everybody in this room, our race is going to end, and we're going to move on. Did we finish the race, and what does that mean? The second thing I helped a lot of people with COVID would help me was, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall have no fear. I rediscovered during COVID a word I had never actually read. Through. We get through the valley. We get through it. All right? We're going to be fine. So each of us has to finish our race. Each of us has to go through the valley. And each of us has to understand that we can't do it alone. No Facebook, no Instagram, no Lamborghini, no shopping mall, nothing is going to be good enough for you to do it as an individual. I heard something that probably saved my life years ago. My minister told me, he said, Jim, your problem is your priorities are wrong. And he said, it's very simple. You either live by the priorities you set, or you're going to live by the pressures others put upon you. Priority versus pressure. That now hangs in every office in the world for me. I'll talk more about it in a second. Many, many times in the last 2 years, my little kids have saved me. I don't know about you. My son one day wrote me a letter. I keep it in my wallet, just thanking me for being a good dad. There's been many funny stories, many real stories. Yesterday, my son is sailing. He's 7. I was up at Lake Ray Hubbard. And my real father had abandoned me when I was 2 weeks old. And I've spent my life hating him. That's probably not a good word to use around here, but I've spent my life hating him. And so I asked my 7-year-old for advice. I said, he's getting ready to die. What should I do? And all he said was, well, Daddy, why don't you just forgive him? That's a 7-year-old. All right? I'm 51 thinking, gee, I wish I wish I had thought of that. So I think it's time to get back to some basic things. I think this morning we need to rededicate ourselves to each other and to this church. I'll talk about how in a second. Matthew says that when you gather 2 or 3, the Spirit of the Lord is among you. I think there's more than 2 or 3 people here. The Spirit of the Lord is here right now. Right now. That's pretty incredible. Second is I think we need to rededicate ourselves to living and leading by example. Do you know when faith's under assault and the Bible's being questioned, how you live your life and how we all act and conduct ourselves may be the only Bible they ever read. You may be the only Bible anyone ever reads. Timothy said in 1 Timothy, set an example for the believers in speech, in life, in love, in faith, in purity. I got some work to do on all those. All right. Next, let's commit to have meaningful interactions and experiences with our own families. I'm on the National Board of Make-A-Wish Foundation. You all have heard of it. It's not fun. We have 62 independent chapters. I'm on the executive committee. We start every board meeting by crying. When your child is going to die, probably, or things are really, really bad, you don't ask for things. You ask for experiences. All right? I've spent my entire life in a lot of different companies, one of which my family's owned funeral homes for years, and I've watched thousands of families go through the worst part of their life. I've never seen anybody say, gosh, I only wish that he had had the iPhone 13 versus the iPhone 12. I've never heard anyone say, well, thank God he got a Lamborghini. All right? It's about experiences. Last thing is let's focus on winning the day. I have a simple sign on my desk that says win the day. All right? I get up at 4 a.m. because that's just what you do when you get older, I guess. You just get up because I can't sleep. But I try to read the Bible first, and then I try to make a list of things to win the day. Everybody's worried about their 5-year plan. Let's worry about our 5-minute plan. All right? Every single parent I know is worried about getting their kid into Harvard, Yale, that sort of thing. Do you know that if you look at statistics, I went to Yale and I studied statistics, a blind animal throwing darts is more accurate than virtually any prediction that any parent will make about their kid's future. That's just statistically true. That's just a fact. When I started in politics, we didn't have we had no email. We had no internet. We had fax machines. You remember fax machines? Right? People actually wrote thank you letters, handwritten letters. I hire people now. Here's the notes to the test. If one of your kids interviews, if you interview with me and send me a handwritten letter, you're getting hired. Right? You're getting hired. Let's worry about our 5-minute plan, not this 5-year plan. All right? It isn't easy. There's an old saying, and it's about to get tougher on you here in a second. Pain comes in the night, but joy comes in the morning. It does. Did y'all notice it's morning time right now as we speak here? As that great religious philosopher, role model, and theologian Ray Wiley Hubbard, if you don't know who that is, you need to get some culture. As Ray Wiley Hubbard said, some people get religion because they see the light and some because they feel the heat. All right? So whether you're seeing the light or whether you're feeling the heat, it's time to get with it. Now, I have a challenge for you, and we'll post this online, but I have a simple challenge. It's the German in me. I like order. All right? Another great country music theologian said that everybody wants to go to heaven, nobody wants to die. I think we all know that one, right? Everybody wants to go to heaven, nobody wants to die. So I have a challenge for you for the next 7 days. All right? You can take notes or listen, we'll get this to you. Number 1, everybody in this room has done something they're ashamed of. Everybody in this room has done something they hope nobody ever finds out about. I have. All right? We can't help other people until we forgive ourselves. So as you sit here today, will you think about something you've done you're ashamed of that maybe no one, not even your spouse, knows? And will you just forgive yourself? Just right now say it's okay. There's nothing you can do that God won't love you. Nothing. Second thing, there's going to be 10 of these. Number 2. In your life, someone has wronged you. Someone has hurt you. Okay, I look at the person I was in my 20s, I don't like that person. I didn't treat people really well. Okay? In the last week, the last day, the last 2 years, the last 10 years, someone has wronged you and done something that you're mad at. Okay? My best friend in the White House and I didn't speak for 10 years over a miscommunication. That's pretty stupid. All right? But I was pride, he was pride. As you sit here, will you think of someone that's done you wrong in a very painful way? And will you forgive them right here? Will you just forgive them right here? And just say, I forgive them. Right? I have seen some of the most unethical behavior in the last 2 years I've seen in my life. I don't know about you all, I've seen people just go nuts during COVID. Okay? Let it go. Let it go. You know, I have to forgive my father. What good does it do to hang on to that hate? And so I'm doing that this morning. Will you forgive someone who's done you wrong? Third thing. It's something like 80 to 90% of people, when they wake up in the morning, check their phone and get on social media and do email before they even say good morning to their spouse or hello to their children. Do you know that one of the problems with kids today, I saw at a study at Yale, you know how you used to pick up your kids and they would jump for joy when they saw you when you pick them up at school? That now, because of the mobile phone, as kids come out, mom and dad are on the phone and they miss that connection. That's actually something they've seen. Okay? We're nothing but a million little moments like that, okay? So for the next 7 days, will you try this challenge? Sleep with your phone in the other room. It's going to be hard, and it's about to get harder too. Number 2, when you wake up in the morning, get the Texas pecan coffee. I get it, okay? Read the Bible first, no matter what. Unless your house is burning down, you got to get out. Sit down and read your Bible. Fourth thing. When you go home today, I want you to write down 4 things on a piece of paper. Number 1, I want you to write priority versus pressure. And I want you to really say, what are my priorities? What are my priorities? And what's pressure? And you're going to find that the things that make you vibrate are pressure. Things you can't control. Do you know in psychological warfare, the way you break somebody if you're interrogating them is you get them out of a quantifiable question, where am I, what is this, to a generalizable question. Doubt. Things you can't control. That's how you actually break someone in an interrogation. Second thing is, once you write down your win the day plan. So what do I need every day? Some people need to knit. Some people need to paint. Some people need to work out. Some people need to read the Bible. Whatever that is, write it down. Because if you're not getting it, eventually you're going to go bang. The third thing is, I call on you, and I'm doing this challenge with you. I'm not up here yelling at you. I'm doing this challenge with you. Write down, even if it's one name, someone that you can invite to church. Just one person. These walls are that the people before you who may or not be here anymore, these windows were built with that mission in mind. That's what this is about. And the last thing, will you just write on a piece of paper what you're thankful for? You know, this morning I get up early and I was down talking to the guy that pulled my car out of the hotel. By the way, that Riverwalk was rocking last night. It was loud. I couldn't sleep. But I was talking to him. His wife is an ICU nurse in San Antonio, and he said that she was very tired and discouraged, and she was going to quit because of all the COVID, and she just can't get any rest. And she says, but then I said, if I don't do this, we'll be one down. We'll be one nurse down, right? We can't be one down here. Whether you're 9 or 90, we can't be one down, all right? So write down what you're thankful for. You know, within a mile of here, you talked about yesterday what happened. I met the lady who cut those 14 people's hair yesterday. Incredible. Within a mile of here, there's someone who has a husband beating them almost to death. Within a mile of here, there's someone who doesn't have food to eat. Within a mile of here, close to here, there's someone going through some of the darkest things imaginable. You know, in this room, there are people going through just some things we can't possibly imagine right now. So write down what you're thankful for. All right, challenge number 5. This is going to be hard. When you get angry this week, I want you to think, the crazy man said priority versus pressure, that's pressure. So when you drive out of here today and someone cuts you off, don't give them half the peace sign. All right? Don't do it. All right? Just say that's okay. When you go to Starbucks, I want a cup of coffee. I go to Starbucks, I got to have venti, blah, 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 all these things. When you order a venti and they give you a grande, don't get mad. It's okay. When you order red noodles and you get green noodles, it's okay. All right? Statistically, there's no evidence that working out helps you at all. There is a ton of evidence that stress kills. Okay? I believe God in this church, I believe God knows exactly how many days we're going to live on this earth. All right? So why be stressed? The pain's inevitable, the suffering is optional. Why am I going to get mad over what someone puts on Facebook about something? Who cares? We have bigger things to worry about. Next, yesterday, I'm a pilot. I flew myself down here, which was fun. I flew myself. I got to my plane. I realized I forgot my shoes. And I got so mad. I was just, oh, my God. David MacArthur in the White House. And I have these hideous pair of Texas A&M running shoes that I brought. And I was like, I'm going to have to wear that. And they're going to think, who is this guy? And I said, priority versus pressure, that's pressure. And I said, I'll just bet. I don't know this for certain, but I will just bet people in San Antonio wear shoes too. And so when I landed, I went to Saks Fifth Avenue. Lo and behold, y'all sell shoes here. Okay? Why get stressed like that? Why? I have a good friend named Pabail Sidhu. You don't know who he is. Pabail is the reason you can't have a laptop on the sideline of an NCAA basketball game. Because he realized that if you strapped a heart monitor, everyone, and he could predict when turnovers were going to happen in basketball based on heart rates. Okay? So whether it's parenting, we've all been there when our heart rate gets raised, right? No matter what it is, when your heart rate gets raised, you make bad decisions. Okay? Let's let it get raised over something that matters. Okay? Not because of what some clown put on Instagram. Okay? Or what someone said. I got some great shoes at Saks Fifth Avenue, by the way. It's expensive. Now this is going to get hard. All right? For the next 7 days, every day, will you call one person and just say, I was just thinking about you and praying for you? Will you just call one person and do that? Do you know, especially during COVID, you may be the only person that called them in a long time. My real father was not a good person. The man my mother married was an amazing person. I looked up the other day, I hadn't talked to my father, my hero, the guy I brag about in all my speeches. I hadn't talked to him in 2 months. That ain't good. Whatever I've been doing, I don't have time to call the guy I call my daddy. No way. So will you call one person? I'm going to tell you why this is impossible for you to do for 7 days in a row. Because you can't call just one. Because when you call one, you're going to say, well, I got to call 2 and 3 and 4. All right? I guarantee you will not call 7 people. You will call many, many more. All right? But will you do that? Number 7, this is going to really start to get hard, especially for the youngsters in the room. This afternoon, tomorrow, this week, will you just go for a walk with someone you love? And will you do me a favor and leave the phone behind? I go into restaurants and see couples sitting there. There'll be 3 couples there on a triple date, and they're all on the phone, never look at each other. I've seen them. They're talking to each other on Facebook. They're not, I'm right here. Here I am. All right? When you come home, if you're a parent and your kids are there, try this. Put that phone in a drawer in the kitchen and go from the time you get home until the bedtime of the kids, and don't look at that phone. Sun's going to come up. Wi-Fi's still going to work. Water's going to flow. All right? Number 8. I met the Keelers. Where are they? They're over here. They're going to Kurdistan. My church is in Keller. If they can go to Kurdistan to do this, we can all come up here or go to my church in Keller. All right? They're going to Kurdistan. I think we can get up here. We need to all, I call on you to volunteer for this church. Okay? Every one of you matters, and your voice matters, and you have a talent. I could learn so much from so many of you, and this church needs you. So I call upon you to volunteer. So in the next 7 days, forgot what it's going to be, let these folks know. Do you realize I'm on the board of my church? Think about this for a second. We had to close God's house for COVID. Think about it. That is pretty significant. I doubt this church certainly didn't close in World War II. Okay, our church wasn't around then. My point is, we all were home. We were isolated, trying to not die on the bleach on the fruit, And your church leaders got up and came to work. They were out there fighting for you, okay? And so whether it's the MacArthur's in Vestry and others in Vestry and all of you families who work hard, while we were trying to figure out what to do, they were doing something about it. And so I call upon you to volunteer to support them. Bless you. Number 9, we're almost there. Please support the church financially. My wife, I don't even go here. My wife and I are going to make a donation to the church. It could be $1, it could be $1 million. Just support the church. We need it. The church needs it. And this is the last one. This is going to be the hardest. If you do this, you're going to love it. For the next 7 days, when you think I need to pick up my phone and look at Facebook or Instagram or anything, Google a Bible scripture. Okay? Don't do it. Google for 7 days. I've got to look at my text messages. Stop. Go look at a Bible scripture. Okay, try that. One of the things that changed my life, I lost my COVID-20, is when DeMarcus Ware said, you know, Jim, your problem is your diet is like the Texas State Fair. And I said, your problem is you think that's an insult. I like the Texas State Fair. But in all seriousness, I'd get up and eat a bag of Doritos. I'm not talking about a little bag, a bag of Doritos. Okay? All right? And so I now do something where when I think Doritos or Cheetos, I do 10 push-ups and I read a Bible scripture. Okay? Try it. I've lost 20 pounds in the last few weeks doing it. Leave your mobile phone. Put it away. It's wasted motion. It's wasted motion. These are small things, but they're very powerful. I got really, really down. I've never been depressed, but close during COVID. And I read a scripture about how Moses didn't get to go to the promised land. Do y'all know that one? He didn't get to go. He does everything that's been called upon him, and he gets there and he doesn't get to go. So then I felt worse. I'm like, well, what are we doing here? I felt worse. I'm like, what is this all about? And I had actually been to those places in Israel. And there were two things that stuck out as I was reading my Bible, thinking about speaking to you. One was in the book of Joshua. It says, now then, you and all these people, get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them. You notice that term? You and all these people? We're you and all these people. Second thing is, no one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you, nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore their ancestors to give them. 2 points. One, if you're hurting right now this morning, we all are, God's never going to leave you or forsake you. Okay? God is never going to leave you or forsake you. The second part of that is we have to lead this church and my church and all of our churches into the new generations. This place started in 1907. All right? Soon we won't be here. There'll be a new group of people here. It's up to us. I was really upset. I had a friend who lost a child, and I went through a dark period where I didn't understand why God would let bad things happen to good people. You know, my minister's wife built an amazing 5,000-member church from nothing, and God took her. Why? I didn't understand it. And I finally realized that everybody in this room is cursed with something, and I'll tell you, it's both a blessing, but it is hard to wrap your head around. It is a story that really finally got me to reach her. There was a great missionary named H.C. Morrison, one of the most famous missionaries to ever walk the earth. H.C. Morrison was in China and Africa, and it's believed that he saved over 1 million people, foreign people, and brought them to Christ. So when H.C. Morrison was getting ready to sail home on the ship, hundreds of thousands of people came to wave goodbye to him as he got on the ship, and he was waving. And a lady next to him punched him on the shoulder and said, you know, I don't know what you think you're doing, but they're not here for you, they're here for him. And he happened to be on the same ship as Teddy Roosevelt. So he looked at this and he said, not a single person, I save 1 million people, I bring 1 million people to Jesus Christ, and not a single person came to say goodbye to me. So on the ship back to America, every night they threw dinners in honor of the great Teddy Roosevelt for killing animals. And they showed the animals he had killed. And not a single person on the ship ever said hi to Dr. Morrison, who saved over 1 million people's souls. They pull into New York Harbor, true story. 1 million Americans were there to greet Teddy Roosevelt. And he said, A.C. Morrison said, you know, I know there'll be people there to greet me from my church. I'm the most famous missionary ever. I know there'll be people to get me. Not a single person was there to greet him when he landed in New York. Somehow got a car. They got him. He says, I know when I get to my house. It's so famous. I've been in all the press. I know they're going to be there waiting on me when I get to my house. Or excuse me, when I get to my town. I know there'll be a sign at the city limits. There wasn't. He said, I know when I go to my church, they'll be waiting at the church for me like you all. And they'll say, welcome home. Good servant. The church was boarded up. He said, I know when I go home to my house, they'll be there waiting on me with a cake and food, and they'll say, good servant, good job. Nobody there. They break a window finally to get into his own house. He gets in his house, falls to his knees, and begins to really get angry with God and said, God, I've done all this for you. I've saved over 1 million people's lives. And I come home and there's not a single person there to greet me. And then he said this wave of relief came over him because he realized he wasn't home. I don't know how to say this to y'all. This isn't our home. All right? One day we're all going to hopefully walk in heaven. I believe you will. I hope so. I hope we all will. And someone's going to walk up to you and say, I know this crazy guy came one Sunday and talked to you, and you called me on a Wednesday, and you said you were praying for me. Do you know I was going through some things that no one had talked to me in a month? No one had ever, that made a difference in my life. Every one of you has made a huge difference in the lives of so many people throughout your whole life. And when we get to heaven, that's our home. That's our home. And so between now and that day, when God tells us our purpose is done and we go, hopefully, to heaven, let us live with priority. Let's not get angry over pressure. Let's live with priority. And let us focus on helping as many people as we can. That's what these windows are about. That's what this church was founded on. I know it's tough in our country right now. We've seen this before. But we are going to do something about it. God bless every one of you. You're amazing. I've gotten to meet some amazing people. God bless the Keelers who are going to Kurdistan. I've been there. It ain't a Starbucks there, I don't think. God bless you. And I just say, every one of you, I'm in awe of you for what you do. Patrick, I'm in awe of you, all of you here. And I know we're going to be amazing. And you can't lie in church. I'll be watching your challenges to see if you did it. So thank you.